Let me bring up my CEO, David Greenbaum.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Rod. And welcome, everyone, to our Smarter Search Summit. And thank you, everyone, for coming. And also thank you to Ignition One for co-sponsoring this with us. Great. And so we have, I'm incredibly excited about the folks who are going to talk to us today. We have a huge amount of intellectual horsepower that's going to join us in the room. So we have Roger from Ignition One, we have Brian from Microsoft, and we have Matt from Google. So it's an incredibly great group of people we're going to hear from today, and I'm super excited to hear what everyone has to share. But I think one theme that we're going to talk about today that's going to weave its way through all of our conversations is what happens when we better understand our customers and when we're able to engage with our customers in the right time and in the right manner, and basically in a way that best suits the current context of our customers. And I like to call this type of engagement marketable moments. Now, when we execute on this well, and when this is all working correctly, we, a lot of things happen that are great. So one, we're able to capture the interest, the attention of our customer. We're able to capture the revenue and the sale. And ultimately, we're able to build this and capture this lifetime value of the customer relationship. So a lot of great things happen when we're able to really execute on these marketable moments. Now, these marketable moments are unbounded. And it's really, it's driven by this proliferation of digital devices within our lives. And I know that, for example, I wake up in the morning to an alarm on my phone. I go to sleep at night listening to Audible, like a 15-minute timer. And then, of course, I'm connected to a digital device throughout the day. And it's because of this, that we have this constant accessibility to these devices, that we're constantly turning to them with our questions and with our needs and with our desires. And in turn, this creates huge opportunities for us as digital marketers and really unprecedented degrees of interaction with our customers if we're taking advantage of it correctly. And so we're able to answer our customers' questions, and we're able to fulfill their needs and their desires. So it's a huge opportunity. It's something that it's a massive opportunity, but it's also incredibly daunting and incredibly challenging. There's a proliferation of all these levers, and what's not happening is our headcount isn't going up as the levers become available to us. Same team that we have for the most part, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. It can be a little bit daunting. There's all this stuff to do, and really the automation doesn't necessarily keep up with all the new tools at our disposal. And I actually think that's really good news for all of us in the room. We're the differentiating factor. It's our ability to take advantage of these levers and to stitch together the right solutions that really allow us to over-index our competition and outcompete our competition. So it makes our jobs collectively more important. So I think in terms of our ability to execute on these marketable moments, I think the one part of it that I think particularly lags the rest of the industry comes with respect to creative. And I think that's true of the overall digital marketing ecosystem generally, but it's especially true of creative within search particularly. And I think if we sort of transition our hats away from marketers and back into the shoes as customers, as consumers of digital content and consumers of these ads, I think we can all recognize how unpersuasive and these ads are generally, and how it really falls short of what it should be and what we should expect. But just in case we've forgotten how bad this is, I'm going to dramatize the point as well. And so I'm going to relate a point about it's a little bit something that's happening, I guess, in my life right now. I have a number of friends who are starting to think about marriage and something that's top of mind for me as well. I think so I can't think of a query that is as emotionally charged, let's say, as what is a diamond ring, where can I find a diamond ring rather? How do I find a diamond ring? So what I want to do now is show you a search engine result page for diamond ring query. And I'm going to read these ads if we can bear it. I'll do a couple. It'll probably be enough. Because it's probably difficult to read from back there. So first one is Diamond Rings - James Allen, DYO with 30,000 plus Lupe photos. And I don't know if does anyone know what a Lupe photo is? Not one Lupe photo knowledge person. Okay. Free FedEx and 30-day returns, exclamation. Diamond Rings - Blue Nile, GIA certified diamonds with low price guarantee, free FedEx shipping. By the way, there's 30-day returns, just in case you weren't totally sold. 24/7 call center financing options. And the last one is Sears Diamond Ring, save big on fine jewelry at Sears. Official site, buy now to save. All right, this is the state of the art for search engine marketing creative. And what I want to do now, we say this day in and day out, and I think we become a nerd to it. We don't really realize how unpersuasive this is, but what I'm doing now is just kind of highlighting a number of these selling features, and I don't know what to do with my water, but selling features, and now I'm just going to read them off. So we have free FedEx, financing options, free FedEx shipping, 30-day returns, low price guarantee, 24/7 call center, 30-day, the returns are a big thing apparently, customer service, save big, etc. These are exactly the same points that I'd expect to see if I'm looking to buy a blender or a washing machine. Our industry does not differentiate. It doesn't try to persuade us any differently between trying to buy any one of these items on the screen. I think we're falling short. So, so I think there's sort of this overall low baseline of creative within our industry. But then, I think let's say we get better at that. I think there's one, the need to sort of raise the baseline, and two, I think it's it's sort of the graduate level, if you will. But how do you take advantage? Going back to this idea of marketable moments, how do you take advantage of these moments? And I think they're really driven by three primary things as we think about our business. So one, there's changes in our business. So we have new products, new inventory. Our business strategy shifts. That our businesses are dynamic entities. We have user behavior shifts. So again, we're marketing to people, and it's a constantly moving target. It's true of the offline marketing world. It's equally true of the online marketing world. And then finally, you have the matter of competition. And unfortunately, our competitors aren't kind enough to just sort of stand in place. They're constantly evolving their messaging, their approaches. So these are really the three triggers that I see that really set the opportunity for us, and we should think about as triggers for needing to write new creative within our accounts. So I want to just look at drill into these triggers a little bit and identify the moments that when we see this happening, these are opportunities. This is when we should think about updating and refreshing our copy. So we'll start with when your competition copies your, I think it's on autoplay. Let's see. So your competition copies your ad creative. So this is something I think we can all relate to. So we go ahead, write a great ad, we see it's performing well, and next thing you know it, your competition comes along and essentially writes the same ad. Now, and it's an incredibly frustrating thing to experience. So if there's, sort of these overarching principles I've learned over the past 5 years of intensively looking at ad creative, there's really two things that you need to do to be effective with your ad creative in search. So one, you need to be specific. The more specific you can be about what you're actually selling, the better off you are, because at the end of the day, it speaks to customers more directly. And two is be different. People often forget that you're on a page with 5 or 6 other options. And as you're writing the creative, it's in many cases just as important to be different as everyone else on the page as it is to sort of get your message out there. So those two things. So as your competition comes along and copies your creative, they're sort of lowering the bar. It's like the tragedy of the commons a little bit. Everyone gets a little bit worse off as you have this convergence of messaging. So you in turn need to move away and write your own specific creative. And your job is sort of stay one step ahead of the competition. So product catalog changes. So it may change because you're introducing new products. You may have seasonal changes. Of course, as you're bringing new things into the mix, you shouldn't just use the ad you used for the other thing, just copy it over for this new thing. It doesn't work. That's how you end up with ads like we were just looking at. So as you have new products or products that are coming into season, you should be writing specific ads for them. Ads like these UGG boots get tired and fatigued, and messaging that used to perform well doesn't necessarily continue to perform well. So you should be looking at messaging that's sort of fallen off in performance. And for whatever, there are a lot of things that potentially can drive that. Anything from a shifting keyword mix to the actual underlying search queries that are triggering the ad. It's just not resonating anymore. So when customer preferences change and stuff gets fatigued, think about changing it then. I think something that's going to be a repeated theme today, throughout today, is context. And when I think we really need to do a better job of taking advantage of context, be it context of device that the person is looking at our ads on, be it context of season, context of location, geography. There are a lot of opportunities for us to target our messaging around each of those dimensions, and that's just naming a couple of them. And so really, being more specific around the context, I think should be a big trigger for generating new creative. Memes, new messaging, and they're constantly working their way through our culture. And when you use this kind of language, when you use language that your customers are using to talk amongst themselves, it works really well. I think there's somehow this collective industry feeling that if it doesn't sound stodgy, if it doesn't sound like it's incredibly descriptive, it's not the right type of ad. And I think nothing could be further from the truth. You want to be aware of, we have to stay on top of language. And you want to be aware of what kind of new phrasing and memes are sort of working their way through our collective consciousness. When there's a new rap song and there's language that's like developing from that, like Bay, I think might be a new one. Like you want to work that in, and you'd be surprised at how well that that resonates with our customers. And I think a lot of what is necessary to be successful, and it's incredibly difficult, but a lot of what's necessary is to get outside of your own head and to really and it's an incredibly difficult thing to get this the mindset of our customers. We're not selling to this homogenous group of people, and so it's actually difficult to know ahead of time what's going to resonate with them. So you have the emergence of new competition, and we see it all the time. And it's important. They may be sort of going after a specific dimension of the value proposition. It's essential to highlight what makes you unique, especially as the competitive landscape is shifting. So you can't assume that the ads, and the relative positioning that we're working historically will continue to work for you in perpetuity. And really, it's not just sort of who are you competing with globally, but it's with respect to keyword sets. And who's buying, are you showing up against the national competitors? Are you showing up against the local competitors? And what's your value proposition with respect to the existing competition, and then the evolution of your competitive set? Trends change. So people like for their coffee to be petted, and like each individual seed is planted, and the customers are they're attracted to shiny new objects. There are new trends to take advantage of. Going back to the ring example, you might want to highlight the fact that these are conflict-free diamonds, for example. The way that customers think about your product is constantly evolving. So too should your messaging. And then this is one that one of the ones that I think is like kind of one of these no-brainers, and yet we don't see it happening. So you write an ad, and it's an awesome ad, and within a particular ad group, and you don't think to sort of propagate that, or it's also very difficult to propagate and to test that messaging, elements of that ad that were successful within a particular ad group against comparable relevant ad groups as well. So it's important to propagate success. And not to sort of just sort of let your successful messaging, let your successful ads sort of exist in these silos within your account. The idea is you should be taking what's working in your head and trunk, and one, like cross-pollinate, but then pollinate into your tail as well. So you want to make sure that you're able to take advantage of those opportunities. Those are sort of known, sort of just sort of success or just value that's waiting to be taken off of the table. Promotions, promotions is something that a lot of us, a lot of us are. That's a big part of our business cycles, and clearly you need to update your messaging when promotions are changing. but it can be an incredibly cumbersome and manually intensive process. I'm sure many of us can attest to that. And then our friends at the ad platforms are constantly innovating, and they're constantly coming up with new ways for us to target who we're going after. It used to be pure intent before. We're now given a lot more levers. And again, going back to what I was talking about in the beginning, those of us that are available, that are able to sort of take advantage of the available levers and really write differentiated messaging, to an RLSA customer, for example, returning customer, or writing device-specific messaging, for example, or demographic-specific. These are, it's really whoever takes best advantage of these new levers will be able to outcompete and to really take the maximum amount of value that's available for us. So as these levers, there's a general proliferation of these levers, take advantage of them. And if you can't, or if you're not taking advantage of them, your competition is, and it's our job to stay one step ahead of them. So now that we've talked a little bit about some of the triggers that should, really should get us to think about updating our messaging and our creative, I want to talk about a couple of ways that we can execute on this. So one is the in-house approach, and just by a show of hands, how many of us are doing it in-house today? So about, say, 50%. And so I think this is sort of a great, an obvious way to do it. And I think when we think about where we spend our time, and I think we do a great job of, in general, when we look at our customers when they first come to us, we're able to do a great job in the most sort of value-dense parts of our account. We're spending a lot of attention on the head, but really the trunk and the tail, I think tend to get overlooked substantially. And we do see a lot of room for improvement in terms of, I think there's often quite a bit of time that goes between the initial sort of sets of optimizations and subsequent ones. But this is one way to, to clearly to execute against this. The other way is to outsource, and there's a lot of awesome agencies that do it for us. But again, I think there's structural difficulties with executing against optimizing, not even, just sort of writing one good ad, but then optimizing against that at scale. And, if we have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of products and SKUs, we have a team of 4 people. It can be very daunting to really to stay up to speed. And, and the same is, true whether it's in-house or whether you're at an agency. And so this is why, the third approach is sort of take a hybrid approach of SaaS platform and a marketplace. And so that's the one that Boost advocates. And we, I think the advantage is, I think, you get the best of what a curated marketplace of expert writers has to offer, namely a diversity of perspectives and scale. We have over 1,000 expert optimizers in our marketplace. And the good thing is we really curate them, we select them on one dimension. So we don't care if they can tie their shoes, we don't care if they can add 1 and 1. What we care about is, are they awesome copywriters? We have that luxury of hiring the person who's only an awesome copywriter. But moreover, it's not just about that, it's about making sure that they continue to be an awesome copywriter. Because when you first start doing something, you might be really excited, and then over time you may fall off. So I think it's really important to be constantly sort of measuring how people are performing and to have that incentive. People, if you're not measuring people, in many cases, they're not necessarily incented to continue to perform. So we have a marketplace of expert optimizers. And then the other piece is we have a state-of-the-art SaaS platform that's solely devoted to creative optimization. And it focuses on building this roadmap of where do you need to be optimizing at any point in time by using a combination of concentration of spend, along with where are my ads underperforming relative to their potential. So it creates this roadmap. It sets up this situation where you can continue to write for your account if you like, but then where you can also invite people from our 1,000+ marketplace of expert writers to contribute as well. So you can just sit back and watch it happen. And then the third piece is you need to, in the same way that keywords and bids need to be performance managed, so too do ads, and that's a big challenge. And it's not just optimizing to a primary metric, but there are secondary and tertiary metrics that many of us care about. Anyway, so that's the benefits of a curated marketplace along with the state-of-the-art SaaS platform. And I think this is sort of more of a general point around the digital marketing in general. I think the digital marketing industry, I think there's really two things, two types of problems that need to be addressed. And you have one problem of being extensive, and so this problem is, I have 10,000 ad groups, and I need to write an ad for each of these ad groups. So that's a problem of being extensive. And really, I think the appropriate solution for this is an algorithmically based solution, as opposed to an Excel-based solution, which I think is what's prevalent and predominant today. And really, here this is all about the cost of the inputs. I need to generate an ad for a fraction of a penny, and it's about coverage, and it's about sort of taking existing things that are working well and grinding out the local maximums and sort of propagating, stuff that's working into sort of more data sparse portions of our account. So it's one part of the problem. This is the extensive part. In general, with our customers, we see this is about 90% of the keywords, but only 10% of the profit. So, and the revenue, the revenue, spend, profit, et cetera. Of course, it depends on our, on specific account structures. The other problem, of course, is being intensive. And here it's all about, I'm looking to capture as many, extra customers on the search term car insurance as I can in a day. And here it's not about, can I generate an ad for a fraction of a penny? It's, I want an incremental 20% improvement in my conversions per impression, 20% improvement in my profit per impression. This is something that I think is uniquely suited to human ingenuity. This is something where you want this knowledge that comes, the cultural awareness, the knowledge that, of language that's working in our society. And here it's about finding the next big global maximum, the next step change, and really the thing that'll move the needle substantially relative to our competition. And here it's really generating the grist, generating the material for us to propagate into the rest of our account algorithmically. So I think this is, true of many things in the world right now, but I think it's, the need to combine both extensive, or to address extensive and intensive problems. And I think both need a different type of solution. And I think, I think in general, people want for one answer to be the answer for everything. They want for it to be purely algorithmic, or they want for it to be purely human-based. But I think if the problem is fundamentally, if you're really solving for two fundamentally different problems, I think you need two fundamentally different approaches as well. And so this is why I think all of us, I think there's, we should be, feel good about career prospects going forward. I think machines will have their pieces and humans will have their pieces to contribute. So now, we talked, we started off at the outset of the conversation looking at a search engine result page gone, in my opinion, terribly wrong. And so I want to sort of switch gears and show what it can be. And so I've taken another search for another topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is stylish pumps. And what I've done is I've basically put a little red box over every mention of shoes or pumps. And that's what we're looking at right now. And I'm focusing in, of course, on the ads on the right. And so these are all templated ads. So I'll just read a couple. Blanket Zappos, free shipping and 365-day returns. Sound familiar? Blanket HSN, shop for stylish designer blanks. It might be, it might be handbags, pillows, maternity wear. Don't know. Save up to 60% on designer brands, shop online for blank and more. These are templates. And then at the bottom, we just have like an industrial pump. And so I want to call attention to, I'll read the HSN ad again. Shop for stylish designer blanks, buy now with easy flex pay payments. So this is, sort of the state of the art of the industry right now, I would say. Here's what the ad can read and should read. This is what, if we're going back to marketing 101, it's pumps at HSN. Take your confidence to ever higher levels with bold evening shoes. This is a uniquely human ad. This is something that is benefit driven. It's why do you, why are you, what are you really looking for? Are you looking for an infinite selection of, red pumps? What we found is with this particular ad is the person typing the search in wants to feel good. She wants to feel confident about that. It's the benefit really of the shoes. It's an emotionally charged ad for an emotionally charged product. And as a consequence, there's a 45% improvement in conversions per impression. So when we take advantage, when we actually use persuasive messaging in our communication with our customers, there's huge amounts of value to be unlocked. And we see this day in and day out at Boost. And so it's not just a sort of a question of account hygiene or cleanliness. It's let's get the marketing, let's get the persuasion back into online marketing, back into search engine marketing. And we can do better. Yeah, I feel like we're kind of selling ourselves short. So when we actually do execute on these programs and we do it effectively and at scale, you see there's better performance that's available. Better performance that's available. I think it's on autoplay again. We can increase our performance with click-through rate and conversion per impression, ROAS, profit per impression. You name the metric, and the creative at the front end of the process moves the needle on it. When you work with Boost and you have our marketplace write the ads rather than you writing the ads yourself, you can save time. You improve relevance, and you're having an appropriate, contextually appropriate ad, and you're able to take advantage of these levers that are being presented to you. And it's really because of the scale of the network. At the end of the day, I don't think 3 or 4 people are enough to write compelling specific ads for thousands, tens of thousands of ad groups. I think there's a structural problem in our industry with that. You'll get quality ads and peace of mind. So the peace of mind comes from the SaaS platform constantly monitoring the performance of the ads and identifying where there are the biggest opportunities to move the needle with new creative. So just want to conclude by just emphasize. I think it's really this radically transformative time in the search engine marketing industry right now, just with the proliferation of, we're moving away from pure intent-based messaging into more audience and targeted-based messaging. We have many more ways to interact and talk with our consumers. And if we take advantage of these, if we really take advantage of these marketable moments, we write compelling, emotionally charged, benefit-driven ads. There's a lot that we can do to move the needle and execute our programs much better. So with that, I want to thank everyone, and I'll take any questions if people have questions.
Thank you, David. Any questions? I know there's got to be at least one. David, I was talking in the hallway about this area, and I think that what's your perspective? Because you mentioned a lot of things about emotional connections and sort of getting back to being this is in my perspective where we're bringing marketing back to search marketing, right? And so. Tell me about how did you come to this conclusion and what kind of drove you to build this wonderful solution?
Oh yeah, okay, that's a fun question to answer. So yeah, this actually came, the whole idea behind Boost came from our work. My co-founder and I were working at a company together, and my co-founder was a search engine marketer for the company. I was on the financial team. We bought a hotel chain in Hawaii, Aston Hotels. And it instantly doubled the amount of work that Rob, my co-founder, had. And Rob's a technical guy. He's an engineer. He was chief architect at LendingTree. And so his workload doubled overnight because of the acquisition of this hotel chain. And he didn't really like to write ads to begin with. So he sent out an email to our whole company challenging everyone, really, not asking, saying, I bet you can't write a better ad than what these guys have. And he had the existing baseline ads from the company that we bought. And the interesting thing, so he sent it out from everyone to everyone from our admin to our VP at the time, about 8 different people. And the first thing we noticed was it was incredibly fun to challenge ourselves to write against this cool brand. It's a hotel chain in Hawaii. It's kind of a fun thing to think about. How do you compel somebody to want to take a vacation? So I think one, we all saw that we enjoyed it, but then 2, when we started measuring the ads that were submitted, there was an incredibly powerful thing that happened, which is that some of the ads that were written by, one of the ads that was written by our admin, for example, not a professional marketer. She's an admin. She was not in market. She wasn't. She had never traveled to Hawaii. She was able to write an ad that outperformed the existing ad of the professional marketers in Hawaii. And so when we saw that, I think it's an incredibly powerful thing. If you're able to recruit solely on one dimension, if you're able to have people who are non-search engine marketers but really good writers, and you're able to have them contribute, I think it's a really powerful dynamic. So when we saw that, we said, let's build some software around around this to really facilitate this at scale. So it came from, really our experience as search engine marketers.
Well, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, nice round of applause for David.